everyone, Stormy here, and welcome to my tutorial on how I draw realistic cats. So last week I drew this drawing of Jay Feather, and a lot of you asked for this tutorial, so here it is. For this tutorial I'm going to be drawing Crooked Star from Warrior Cats. So let's get right into it. So before you start drawing, you need to find a good reference photo to reference from, and if you can't find a suitable image, then Photoshop one together like I have here. And I printed mine out and I just sketched the rough shapes of the face onto the actual drawing before I started sketching onto paper. That is so that I have a rough idea of what shapes there are and how they're positioned before I start putting it onto paper. So as you can see, I just put the shapes down, and now I've started to sketch out the main features of the face. So the nose, the eyes, and now the ears. So when you're sketching, you don't really have to worry about doing it lightly, because you're going to rub it out when you're going to draw it anyway. You're not going to rub it out completely, just enough so that the pencil doesn't show through underneath the colours that you are colouring with, and so that you can still see what you are drawing. And now I've started with the nose, so I start with the lightest colours first and build up and get gradually darker. And when I blend the colours for the nose, I like to blend in a circular motion. This is so that it gives a nice smooth blend, because the nose is quite smooth, unlike the fur. So I'm starting to add the darker shadows, and sometimes I go back to the lighter colours just to put some of the highlights back in where they were. And you can see here I've used a little bit of really dark brown to just bring out the shadows a bit more. And now I'm going to start working on the shortest bit of fur, which will be on the bridge of the nose. And this part is always quite tricky because the fur is so short, but you still want it to look like fur. So I start with the lightest colour, and I roughly mark out where the patch I'm going to draw is, and I add some shadows in where the shadowy parts are, and gradually blend it in, but not in a circular motion, so almost like shading with a pen, where you do little lines that spread out towards the highlight. So the lines spread out more and more, and I just use some white to blend the colours a bit more, because I find white is really good for blending the colours. As you can see here, I'm redoing the sketch slightly because I missed out some of the details, so you can always go back and redo the sketch if you want to. I do that quite a few times during this drawing. And now I'm starting to do the little patches of the tear ducts. It's just a little patch of darker fur right under where the tear ducts are. And now I'm working my way up, so because that's the way the fur direction goes. It goes up on the nose and under the eyes and over the eyes as well. So I like to go up and over the eyes first. So the fur is not much longer here, but it is a little bit longer here, so it gets easier to draw. But I use the lightest colours and add darker colours as a shadow before going back over with the lighter colours to create the highlights for the fur, because fur, you mostly see the highlights and the shadows of very, very tiny. So, and now I'm just marking out where the other patches of fur patterns are going to go. So that's a lighter patch there, and I use a lot of white in these patches. So just going in with the white and the lightest colour that I have. So for the brown part on the bridge of the nose, the lightest colour isn't the same as the lightest colour for the lightest patches of fur. And now, as you can see, I'm just going and marking out where the markings are going to be. So the stripes in the little tabby M shape with a dark brown. It's not a black. I hardly use a black at all in this drawing. I only use it a little bit in the markings just to get a few shadows in there, but not a lot. As you might be able to see on the side there, when my head moves out of the way, there I have quite a few different shades of dark brown. So here I'm just blending the darker pattern into the lighter patch of brown. So it's a bit like the blending of the shading on the light patch on the nose, where you just do little lines that gradually get further apart from each other. Now I've started to work on the actual tear duct, which isn't completely black, so I got a lot of dark brown in there as well, and the rim around the eyes are actually black. So as you can see, I used a few lighter colours to brighten up the tear ducts a little bit. Now I'm just going to do another light patch of pattern with blending with the white again. A little bit of a time skip there, but I basically did the same thing on the other side with the fur going in the other direction, because fur sort of spreads out, and I redrew the ears because I didn't quite like the shape that they were before. Like I said earlier, you can re-sketch this as many times as you want until you finish. Just adding in some more shadows there. And the fur does get gradually longer as you move towards the outside of the face. So when I do the first layer of the lightest colour for that colour patch, I sort of judge the length of that the fur is going to be before I go over it. And the tufts of fur in the ears, I found that pretty difficult to draw because they're just one really long strand of fur. That's all I have time for today, so I'm going to do this tutorial in 2 parts, and the second part is going to come out next week. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next week.